Welcome to Smoke Signals, everyone. I'm Matt Montgomery, along with head football coach Jason Holman. Jacksonville played at Kilgore last week, and coach, a tough game, a physical game. Not obviously what you expected, but you're still 1-1 in the district. You still control your own destiny with 4 games to go. Just your overall impressions of the game and how you think it started breaking down for your team.
Well, it was disappointing for sure. We talk about wanting to be a playoff caliber football team, and if you're going to be a playoff caliber football team, you've got to beat playoff caliber teams, and we fully expected to be able to go out and compete with them. We knew it was going to be physical, knew it was going to be tough. They had a good team. We didn't have any delusions about that, but certainly disappointed in the outcome.
Yeah, the peaks and valleys that you've talked about all year long with your team, you've talked about it on here, that you have to avoid those. Those are the kind of games right there that kind of find out the next week when you get in practice if you can overcome that valley. And so far, I know this week things have gone better, and the kids are looking forward to playing Chapel Hill.
Yeah, I mean, have a game like that, you got to move on. We can't dwell on it. We've got to move on. We've got to focus on the future. Excited to be back at home, get a chance to go up against a good caliber opponent with Chapel Hill.
Let's look at some of the highlights. Jacksonville versus Kilgore. Here's Devin forcing a fumble and Michael Miles and Cash jumping on it.
Yeah, great job by Devin getting there, just throwing at him, putting his hat on the ball, knocking it loose, and we were fortunate to get over. That was the opening drive.
Here's what you wanted to do. You wanted to get Devin in space, and here's a run for 15 after catching it.
Yeah, this was definitely in the game plan. We couldn't do it consistently enough, but that certainly was the plan.
Some really nice spin moves here by your senior running back, Jawalen Kennedy, for 14.
Yeah, more trying to get him running east and west. Good job on Jawalen making him miss a tackle and get positive yardage.
And here's Coda Kennedy getting involved in the passing game with a nice catch.
Yeah, it was a great job by Coda going up and making a big play. We needed certainly at that point, and here he is again.
Yeah, here's the touchdown right before the half to Coda.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened in the secondary to turn him loose, but that was a bad mistake by them.
And Trent comes up, makes a nice hit. The other guys follow.
Good job, Trent, running the alley there as it's coming from the safety spot.
Cash Bearden just blows up this play right here.
Yeah, it was a great job by Cash attacking. We actually work on that, and he played that one to perfection and, knocked the blocker back into the receiver.
Coach, tough game. We've already talked about that. So, these, like you said, you want to put these behind you. The stats reflect that, and just not a typical Jacksonville offensive game for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We've got to, like I said, we've got to regroup. We've got to change our concentration and get focused on what's ahead and go back to what we were doing prior to.
So what's ahead is Chapel Hill, Coach, a team you're familiar with. You won a state championship there as a defensive coordinator. And this is a team that started off playing a little bit slower. They were playing some good competition there, and, boy, they really picked it up. They're averaging a lot of points, as you can see, almost 40 points a ball game. They can score big in a hurry. They have a lot of athletes on that offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, they're very talented. They had a rough schedule to start and struggled a little bit. They turned the ball over quite a bit against Gilmer, really could not make a game out of it because of all the turnovers. Since that point, they seem to have ironed out some mistakes. They were actually trailing against Palestine all the way into the third quarter, and then made some big
Palestine had a
plays.
lead at the half, didn't they? Yeah.
Palestine came out, ran at them, held the ball, and just kind of ground and pound, and managed to get some scores along the way, and went into the third quarter with a lead. And then Chapel Hill started kind of figuring it out, and they started running the ball on them, and kept the ball out of their offensive hands, and then Palestine turned it over several times in the second half, and that was kind of the difference in that game.
Offensively, Chapel Hill brings back, I think the quarterback's a sophomore, the great running back's a sophomore. They were freshmen last year when they went to the semifinals. A lot of experience there. Talk about what Chapel Hill will try to do offensively.
Well, they've got weapons all around. Their 4 skill positions are very talented in addition to quarterback and running back. A lot of team speed. I've been impressed with their offensive line. Their offensive line blocks and fits up well. They know what they're doing. They work combinations very well. So, we've got to keep them pinned in. Certainly can't let them get behind us and outside of us. I mean, that's the biggest thing that we've got to do to defend them, in my opinion. And we've got to make them earn it. And that's something we didn't do against Kilgore. We've got to make them earn, their possessions and earn if they even happen to score. It's got to be because they've earned it down the field. us keeping them in front of us, but making them earn it all the way and not giving up the big chunks of yardage.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what happened against Kilgore is that they're that big play kind of team that they take advantage of those big plays, and Chapel Hill has that same kind of team speed. Is Chapel Hill, what do they look like up front? Because that is as good a defensive front line, and you said it last week that Kilgore had. How does Chapel Hill compare to that?
And, I don't think they're necessarily as physical as Kilgore's defensive line, but they're very talented. They're quick, they're smaller, they're quicker, and, I feel like if we can run at them, we have a chance, and occupying them with blocks instead of trying to run around them. They'll run you down running around them, but if we can run at them, and then certainly we got to be able to attack them in the passing game. We got to have a good balance and just kind of keep them guessing as to what we're doing. Offensively,
each week you guys keep adding different wrinkles to your offense, and unfortunately last week you just never did really have a chance to get into that because, you got behind the 8 ball so quick. Are you continuing to do that even at this, with 4 games to go? You still each week do you look at your opponent and say, okay, we need to do this, we need to add this in practice against them? How hard to do that is it to do that when you have your system, you're putting it in, and then you're going to add stuff each week?
Well, what we put in builds upon what we've already got in. So that's the part of that makes that doable. It's not like we're putting in a totally new offense. It may be a different alignment. It may be an unusual formation or set, but it's all complementary to what we've already taught. So, once we can figure out how to line up in a certain position, then we can go ahead and execute it because we know what we're doing there. But we're certainly putting in, trying to put in some new wrinkles here and there.
So talk about keys to the game, Coach. A good Chapel Hill team, a team that's kind of getting on a roll a little bit. But on the other hand, you did see some things like they were down to Palestine at the half last week. How are you going to try to take advantage of that? What are the keys for you guys to get the win?
Well, they have had a tendency to turn the ball over. We've got to take advantage of that. We've got to create some turnovers, limit their possessions. And we got to understand it's going to be a 4-quarter fight. We're not going to win it in the first quarter, or vice versa. It's going to be a 4-quarter fight.
Yeah, ask Palestine.
Yeah, exactly. They're explosive enough that they're going to get some positive plays. We can't let that affect our mentality in staying in the game and battling for 4 quarters. And then, like I mentioned last week, get it to that 4th quarter, and then let's go see what we can do. But we've got to manage the game in between that leading into the 4th.
Last thing, Coach, after a game like last week and your coaching staff, you guys are not just coaching positions and saying here's where to be, but there's also between the ears, there's the psychology of the game. Talk a little bit about that and what you guys have been trying to impart to your players about forgetting last week, let's move forward.
So it's all about, I think we were guilty of not doing this against Kilgore, but it's all about the mental process of one play at a time. If you're distracted from what happened 3 plays ago or the last play even, then you're not living in the present and you're not focused on what you're doing at that moment. It's a hard thing to get across to your players, but that's literally how you have to approach it. You got to have a short memory. You got to move on to the next one. It's that play that you're on at that given moment that you got to focus on. Not watching the scoreboard, not worried about what happened a possession ago, things of that nature. But living in the present and executing, and that's one of the toughest things to get across to young athletes.
It's Jacksonville and Chapel Hill at Tomato Bowl. We'll be live at 6:45 on our live stream on JHS-sports.com. For head coach Jason Holman, I'm Matt Montgomery. We'll see you next time right here on Smoke Signals.